Bryson Porter, and today I will be discussing honeybee robbing behavior. So, my hypothesis for this project is is the scarcity of the food source the only driving source of robbing behavior in the Apis mellifera? So, to begin this project, I want to discuss what is robbing behavior. So, robbing behavior is what it sounds like. It's these bees, forager bees, for to be specific, that are going to other hives and taking honey or nectar from another hive and returning to their original hive to drop it off. This behavior can be one bee or it can be a whole invasion of bees robbing this unsuspecting colony. If it's confusing to think about it that bees are stealing, just imagine that bees are pirates, for example. Pirates will just rob indiscriminately and take whatever they need to. Maybe perhaps one bee out there is Captain Jack Sparrow bee, but I digress. So why do bees start to rob? So forager bees will typically collect nectar from the flowers in the area that they live in. The problem begins when these resources start becoming scarce. And when it happens, these bees have to find some other source of food. And this is why they start robbing other hives. Another reason why bees begin to rob is because us as humans are changing the environment so fast that these colonies can't really adapt to their environment that is changing before them. So now they have to resort to going and robbing other hives for food, which can be detrimental to the hive because now they don't have food. You see, so it could become a vicious cycle, which could kill off a lot of bees. So, what are some advantages and disadvantages of robbing? So, an obvious one is when a hive robs another hive. Excuse me. They're gonna get the food in return. That's an obvious advantage. They're getting food while the other hive is not. Another thing you can consider as an advantage is when robbing is taking place, the defensiveness of the hive is also increased. A problem with that advantage, though, is that while the defense is increased, the aggression of the guards also increased as well, and they could potentially attack their nestmates. Another disadvantage to robbing is that there could be a horizontal transmission of diseases between these robbing bees. And when they're robbing someone, either they could transmit a disease or get a disease transmitted to them via this parasite known as Penobacillus larvae. And if the disease is going to the hive that is getting robbed, not only does this hive have less food now they also have a disease which could potentially kill the hive, which is no good for anyone. This graph kind of describes the top right, bottom right, and bottom left kind of describe what I was talking about in the previous slide. But the top left, it is saying that when robbing is taking place, more of the forager bees are returning faster than when there is no robbing taking place. The other graphs are talking about the defense of the hive is increasing. Now, how do these bees safeguard against getting robbing? Now, the guards of the nest are able to tell the difference between their own hive mate and a separate hive mate based on the pheromones given off by these bees. Now, once food starts becoming scarce, these guards begin to increase their defensiveness of the hive to keep the food safe. But vice versa, if the hive were to increase its food, the guards wouldn't be as on edge as if there was less food. In this graph, it is talking kind of about what I said in the last slide. So in Hive A, the first two bars that you see are talking about low robbing When there's low robbing, the nestmates are almost always accepted. But when there's a high robbing of when robbing is taking place at a frequently, they're less accepted by the guards. Now, the third and fourth lines of each hive are showing the percent that they're being accepted by guards if they were non-nestmates. And as you can see, it follows the same trend as nestmates, but is lower than that one. And this graph is showing that every level of the bee colony is intertwined. So the landscape level is intertwined with the individual level, with the colony level. Colony is with landscape, individual, vice versa. I talked about earlier how if a hive gets a virus by larvae or mites, it will affect the whole hive, which will infect the individual, which will then affect the colony. You see where it's going with that? So, in conclusion, from the articles that I found, it seems like food is the main reason for robbing, and I couldn't find anything that was driving the robbing behavior other than maybe environmental changes that was making the bees worried. But other than that, I believe that the driving force behind robbing is the food scarcity, depending if it was scarce or not. These are my references. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.